Hello and welcome back to your mat, and welcome to this final installment of the starter series. So in today's class, we're going to put it all together. So all the previous classes, if you've not had a chance to watch those, feel free to go back and review those, watch those again as many times as you need to. And then in this class, we're just going to put all of that together and have a nice little class. So this class is also even great, even if you're not a beginner. Just some basic, simple poses that makes you feel good in your body. So we'll get started. I would recommend, if you've been using blocks throughout the rest of the starter series, then go ahead and grab a couple of blocks if you have those nearby or something like that. You may or may not need them, but it's always just nice to have those just in case. We'll get started with a quote by Jason Crandall. Yoga is the perfect opportunity to be curious about who you are. So let's get curious about who we are and let's put all this together. And we're going to start very simply, as I am right now, in this simple seat here. Again, you could prop your seat up if you need to. You could sit up on a block, a blanket, a cushion. We're going to sit here and we're going to arrive for just a moment before we start moving. So bear with me for a moment. Close your eyes and just arrive on your mat. Let everything go that you were doing before this and what you have to do after this. For right now, for this short amount of time, you're here on your mat. I like to think of my mat as my little oasis. It's my place that I come to, that I'm here, I'm focused, I'm enjoying my practice. But what I learn on the mat, I can take with off of my oasis or off of my mat. So go ahead and inhale deeply through the nose, your eyes closed. Hold briefly at the top, and then exhale, let that all go. Let's do that twice more, and then we'll get moving. Inhale. Hold. And exhale. Let it all out. Once more. Inhale. Hold. Exhale, let it all out. All right, we've arrived now. Let's get started with tabletop. So as you recall from one of the beginning videos, I'm going to move my props out of the way for now. Come into tabletop. I'm going to give you less cues on these, so just follow along the best you can. You are always welcome to go and review what we've already done. So from tabletop, we're going to do some cat-cows. So we're going to start with the cow pose, which is dipping that lower back, bringing the chin up and the chest forward. And then exhale, we're coming to cat pose. You're going to round, dome that upper back, round your lower back, tuck your chin in. Inhale, cow, look forward. Exhale, cat. So do a few rounds of those on your own, at your own pace, adding in the breath as you're able to. Don't worry about if it doesn't match exactly. I like to inhale on my cow pose and I'm looking forward and arching my lower back, and I like to exhale when I round in for my cat pose. But you could do the opposite and that would be perfectly fine. Just match your breath with your movements. So do a few rounds on your own. Just moving through this, warming up the body, especially the spine. Let's do two more. Come back to neutral after you finish those last two. And then we're going to come stand at the top of our mat. And this is where you might need your blocks. So we're going to run through a little partial sun salutation. So go ahead and grab the blocks if you think you're going to want those. If you don't have blocks, you can always just put your hands on your shins. I'm going to do that for now, but always remember the blocks are an option. No shame in using them. I use them all the time. So please use those tools. Okay, from mountain pose, feet are hip distance apart, standing tall here, arrive for just a moment. And then inhale, rise your arms up overhead. And then we're going to exhale and fold forward, bending at the knees if needed. And on the inhale, using your blocks, the floor or your shins, lift halfway out. Look out in front of you. Exhale, fold in. We're going to inhale and come all the way back up, and we'll do that a couple more rounds. Okay, just to get us kind of warmed up before we move into the rest of our standing series. And apologize, my dog, I'm pretty sure just walked through the camera, so you'll have to ignore that. She does what she does. Inhale, arms reach overhead. Exhale, fold in. bending your knees if you need them. Inhale, look out in front of you. And exhale and fold in. Inhale and rise all the way back up. Return to your mountain pose. We'll do that one more time before moving on. Inhale. Exhale, fold in. Inhale, flat back, look out in front of you. Exhale, fold in. Inhale, rise all the way up and back into mountain. So now we are going to do that portion one more time and then adding on to that. So I lied a little bit. Sorry about that. Inhale, or arms reach up. Exhale, fold in. Inhale, halfway lift. And then exhale and go ahead and step back, however you like, into downward facing dog. So go ahead and come in your downward dog. I'm just going to adjust the outfit there for a moment. And go ahead and pedal out your legs here for a minute. Take your dog for a walk. Really feel the stretch there in the calves, through the hamstrings, all the way up into the hips. Stretch through your arms. Press the floor away. When you feel ready, go ahead and decide how much of a bend you want in your knees. Come into your version of down dog and take a couple breaths there. And on the inhale, go ahead and look forward and rock forward into your plank. And again, your knees can come down for this if you like. And then from there, go ahead and lower down, keeping the elbows tucked in. Pops out of the way here. And then inhale, hands next to your chest, and rise up into a cobra pose. And exhale back down. We're going to do cobra pose twice more. So inhale, rise up to your level of cobra. It could be a smaller one, or it could be a higher one. And once more, inhale, keeping those elbows tucked in. Inhale into your cobra, whatever feels best for you. Exhale, lower back down. And then we're going to come up into all fours. So we're not going to do down dog from here because now we're going to move into some standing poses. So from our all fours, we're going to go ahead and step that right foot forward. And now we're a nice low lunge here. Again, the blocks could come in handy if you find that you need to bring the floor up to you. Use these. These are tools. They are great tools. So we're in our nice low lunge here. Right leg is forward, our left leg is back. Looking forward, instead of rounding in and hunching here, I want you to really open up that chest, open it up bright, kind of the opposite what most of us do when we're sitting behind a computer or on our phones or in our cars. We're more hunched. Let's open that up and do the opposite. And then tuck that those back left toes. And now we're going to come into a high lunge. So go ahead and find your steady stance here, and you may need to move this right leg out a little wider on your mat. You can move both legs out wider so that you get a nice stable stance here. So now we're in our high lunge. Arms can go up. Arms can come into a cactus shape. Arms could be behind you with your hands interlaced. You decide what feels best for your body. I need kind of some opening in my chest today, so I'm going to go with the arms behind interlaced. Cactus is also good for that. So here's our nice high lunge. So my back left heel is off of the ground in this pose. And I'm lunging deeply into that front leg. And then from here, go ahead and come into warrior one. So warrior one, as you remember, go ahead and set that left heel down on the ground. My hips are still square to the front of the mat, just as I was. Arms can be in whatever configuration feels good here. And then we're going to open up into warrior two. So go ahead and open yourself up into your warrior two here. Arms spread out long on the mat here. Long to either side. Looking out in front of you. And then go ahead and bring that all in and step forward into a nice mountain pose here. So arrive before we do the other side, but we're going to start from all fours again like we did the first side. So just arrive here for a moment, and we're going to get back to all fours via downward dog. So inhale, rise up. Exhale, fold in. Inhale, halfway lift. And then exhale, step back into your downward facing dog and pedal that all out for just a moment before we move to the other side. Arrive in your down dog and take a couple of deep breaths in and out through your nose. Arriving, rinsing before we start the other side. Take another inhale there and an exhale, and go ahead and drop those knees down, and we're back to all fours again. So from all fours, here we go. We're going to go ahead and step that left foot forward and come into that low lunge. So my back knee is on the ground, and I'm untucking those back right toes. So left leg is deeply bent here. My chest is open. Shoulders are away from my ears. Looking out in front of us here. You can always stay a little bit more upright if that bothers you. So I'm coming a little bit deeper. You don't have to. Go to your degree, what feels best for you. Find your edge. Stop there. And then from here, go ahead and adjust your stance however you need to, because now we're coming into high lunge. So tuck those back toes. Widen out the stance if you need to. Come on up into your high lunge. Arm variation of your choice. And you can do something different here if you like this time. So we're going to arrive here. My back heel, remember, is off the ground for high lunge. My left leg is nice and deeply bent. The deeper you come in, a little bit harder this is going to be. The closer your feet are together, so meaning where the center line is, if you bring them closer, more like a tightrope, you're going to be a lot more wobbly. If you find that you're wobbly, lengthen out the stance to either side of your mat, and that will help a lot. So the wider your stance is, the more stable this pose becomes. And when you're first starting out, or even if you've been doing yoga for close to 15 years like I have, you'll still find you're wobbly. So do what you need to do to adapt, just not as young as I used to be. And then from here, we're going to come into warrior one. So go ahead and plant that right back heel down. Hips are still square to the front of the room. Arm variation of your choice. Make sure you breathe here. And keep your knee, the best you can, tracking over your big and second toe. So you don't want it splaying in or splaying way out. You want to do your best you can. And then from here, we're going to open up into warrior two. So go ahead and come into your warrior two, and now your hips are turned to the side of your mat. You may or may not have the exact heel to arch alignment, and that's fine. Just work with where your body is today. As you go along, it will become more familiar and just easier to fall right into that heel to arch alignment. So don't get hung up on that. Really, more of the important point here is our hips are squared now to the side of the mat and not to the front. Arms out, like a nice warrior here. You're really strong and steady and stable in this pose. And then go ahead and release and come back into mountain pose. And just allow yourself to arrive here. And then from here, we're just going to simply sit down. So however you want to get there, come into your seat, graceful or not, doesn't really matter. We're just going with it. So we're going to come into child's pose. So from your seated position, just go ahead. We'll have a brief child's pose here. I almost forgot child's pose. So go ahead and sit your seat back on your heels if that works for you, and stretch forward. As always, you can use props under your seat or under your forehead, whatever you need to do. You can stay more upright. I'm going to stay more upright only because I have a microphone. But if you are able to and you want to go for it, bring the forehead down to the mat. It's a nice pressure point there right between your eyebrows. So we're arriving here. We're going to bring ourselves down now that we've moved a little bit. This was a short sequence, but a great anytime sequence, beginner, just starting a yoga practice, coming back to yoga, been practicing for years. You know, it's simple, and it's a great practice to come back to, no matter whether this is your very first practice or your 100th practice. And then from here, we're going to lie on our back, and we're going to come into bridge pose. You have the option to grab a block and come into a supported bridge pose if you like. So as you recall, bridge pose, if you recall, and if you don't worry. Your soles of your feet are on the ground, your knees are bent, and everything else is on the ground. So your hips, your back, everything's on the ground. Supported bridge is going to simply be raising the hips up and then taking this block at whatever height you decide. I would suggest the medium or lowest, and setting that right at your sacrum, so right below the small of your back. So this is supported bridge. If you decide, Microphone's trying to make an escape. If you decide you want to go with a little bit more effort needed, then go ahead and come up unsupported. So this does take more effort, and you need to listen to what your body says today. Does it say, yeah, I kind of feel like pushing just a little bit more and doing the unsupported, or no, I'm really exhausted and supported really supports me right now. So it's not about one is better than the other. It depends on the day. If your energy level is really low, supported might be a better option. If you're feeling a bit more energetic, this is a great option. So take a breath here and exhale and release that down, whether you're with the block or not with the block. Go ahead and take the block out if you have the block there. And move those out of the way. We're going to do a simple supine twist. Bring both knees into your chest. Inhale and then exhale and bring your knees over to the left. Right arm out to the right and look over to the right. So we're just twisting it all out, letting everything go. Again, one of my favorite poses to end a yoga practice with. It's just a great release all around. Inhale, hug your knees into your chest, and we'll go to the to the right side. So drop both your knees over to the right and bring your left arm out to the left and look over to the left for a brief spinal twist here. And then inhale, bring your knees into your chest, hug them in. And now we're going to just let everything go, flop everything open into a nice Shavasana pose. So legs are out long on the mat, your arms are out long to your sides. If lying on your back doesn't work, you can always roll over to one side and take your Shavasana that way. You can make a pillow with your arm. You could also alternatively come to your stomach. So go ahead and pick your variation of Shavasana. I will walk you through this. We've got about another minute or so here before we close out this class. So go ahead and allow yourself to come into this pose, to just really drop in and let go. Let go. Don't skip this pose. Allow yourself the time. We're going to be here for maybe another 30 seconds. You can always stay longer, but just a little short amount of time to integrate your practice into your body. And I highly recommend closing your eyes. If you have an eye covering, cover your eyes. If you don't, no worries. Allow yourself to drop in and notice how you feel. Is your body fighting this, or are you enjoying it? For those that have more time, please ignore my cues and stay there. For those that are up against a time limit, our time is up. Go ahead and hug your knees into your chest. Roll over to one side or the other and carefully bring yourself back up with your hands. So just carefully and mindfully bring yourself back up. We're going to transition back into our day off of our mat. And this is a nice way to do it carefully and gently instead of very abruptly and now we're done. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this starter series. I hope it was helpful. I hope you learned some things from it. And I hope you now feel a little bit more confident going forward and doing some of the other classes. So thank you again for joining me. And until the next time.